Hey lovelies, how about a recap from where we left off from our previous episode? From Sera's nightmare, to her once peaceful life in the antique shop, to when she discovers the Ashford's collar, to the discovery of the curse, leaving town and arriving at Nathaniel's tomb. Here's another mind-blowing episode, because you're not ready for what's about to happen next. So sit tight, grab your popcorn, hit that subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get notified each time we upload a new video. Now, shall we? But then, at the last moment, his expression shifted. Clarity broke through the madness for just an instant. "Unless," he whispered, "unless love proves stronger than hate. Unless my blood and hers can heal what I've broken." He buried the box beneath the altar and collapsed, his body finally giving out after months of fighting the corruption of his own curse. Sera gasped and pulled back from the vision. "It's under the altar. We need to move it." Together, they heaved at the massive stone. It should have been impossible for two people to move, but Sera's wolf strength was growing, and Dominic's corrupted transformation gave him power beyond human limits. The altar shifted with a grinding sound that echoed through the caves. Beneath it, in a hollow carved into the bedrock, sat a silver box. Dominic lifted it reverently. The box hummed with dark magic, and when he opened it, they both recoiled. Inside was a lock of hair, still somehow glossy and preserved after 2 centuries, wrapped around a small silver key. "The key to the collar," Sera breathed. He made a matching set. The collar was meant to be Iris's gift, and this key was meant to unlock it. But she died before he could give it to her. So he turned it into an anchor for the curse. Dominic's voice was hollow. "This is it. This is what we need to destroy during the blood moon." They should have been celebrating. They'd found what they were searching for. But instead, Sera felt dread settling in her stomach like stones. "Dominic, in the vision, I saw something. When Nathaniel buried this, he said the curse could be broken if love proves stronger than hate. But he didn't specify what kind of love or whose." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't think destroying this is enough. I think we need to choose. Either we destroy it and hope that breaks the curse completely, or..." She took a shaky breath. "Or we use it. Complete the ritual he half-created. Let the curse transform into whatever he intended it to become." "That's insane. We don't know what that transformation would do to us. We know what happens if we destroy it and it doesn't work. I die in 19 days. At least the other option gives us a chance." Dominic closed the box with a sharp snap. "We have 2.5 weeks to figure out which choice gives us the best odds of survival. Let's not make any decisions while we're standing in a dead man's tomb." They emerged from the caves to find they weren't alone. 3 figures waited at the cave entrance, 2 men and a woman, all with the telltale signs of werewolves: golden eyes, predatory grace, and an aura of barely controlled violence. "Well, well," the woman said, her accent thick and Eastern European. "Dominic Ashford, we've been tracking you for days, and you've brought us a gift." Her eyes locked onto Sera. "The cursed one. The abomination." Dominic moved in front of Sera instantly, his body language screaming threat. "She's under my protection." "Katya, walk away." Katya laughed. "Your protection? You, a half-breed who can't even complete a transformation? The council sent us to eliminate the cursed bloodline before she endangers our kind. Step aside, or we'll kill you both." "The council." Dominic spit the word like a curse. "I should have known they'd interfere. You should have completed your duty when you found her. Instead, you've been playing house with the enemy." Katya's expression turned pitying. "Oh, Dominic, did you actually fall for the cursed girl? How pathetic." Sera felt her wolf rising, responding to the threat. Her fingers began to lengthen into claws. "I'm not an abomination," she growled. "You're a mistake that should never have been born. When the blood moon comes, you'll lose control and slaughter innocents. We're doing you a mercy." The 3 werewolves advanced, and Sera saw her death in their eyes. These weren't villains, they were protectors of their kind, eliminating a threat. She couldn't even blame them, but Dominic could. He transformed, or tried to. His body convulsed, bones cracking and reforming into wrong shapes, fur sprouting in patches, his face elongating into something between wolf and human. It was agonizing to watch, and Sera realized this was what he lived with every day, the constant pain of a transformation that never completed. But even half-formed, he was lethal. Dominic launched himself at the werewolves with a snarl that shook the mountainside. The fight was brutal and fast. Claws and teeth, blood on stone, 3 full werewolves against 1 half-breed, and 1 woman barely holding on to her humanity. Sera didn't think. She let the wolf take over. The transformation was smoother this time, less painful. She felt her bones shift, her muscles strengthen, her senses sharpen to impossible clarity. She didn't become a full wolf, not yet, but something in between, just like Dominic. And together, they were devastating. They fought as if they'd been partners for years, anticipating each other's moves, protecting each other's weaknesses. Sera's wolf recognized Dominic's as pack, as mate, as the other half of her soul. When it was over, 2 of the werewolves were down, unconscious but alive. Katya remained, bleeding from a dozen wounds but still defiant. "The council will send others," she said. "You can't protect her forever. Watch me." Dominic's voice was barely human. Katya fled into the forest, and Sera collapsed, the transformation receding and leaving her shaking and human once more. Dominic knelt beside her, his own transformation slowly reversing. "Are you hurt?" "No, you?" "I'll heal." He pulled her into his arms. "Sera, we need to make a choice now. The council knows where we are, what we're planning. We don't have 2 weeks anymore. We have maybe days before they send a full strike team." "Then we use the anchor," Sera said. "We complete Nathaniel's ritual and hope his moment of clarity was real. You could die. I could die. We could both become something worse than what we are now. Or we could become something better. Together." She cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. "I'm not afraid of the transformation anymore. I'm afraid of losing you. I'm afraid of dying without ever really living. So let's live, Dominic. Let's choose love over fear, hope over despair. Let's prove that our ancestors' mistakes don't have to define us." He kissed her then, desperate and fierce, tasting of blood and hope. "If this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, I want you to know these weeks with you have been the only time in my life I've felt whole. Curse or no curse, what I feel for you is real." "I know. I feel it too." They gathered the silver box and began the journey back down the mountain, racing against time and the werewolf council, and the countdown ticking in both their veins. 17 days until the blood moon. 17 days to prepare for a ritual that would either save them or destroy them, but at least they'd face it together. They didn't return to civilization. Instead, Dominic led them deeper into the mountains, to a hidden cabin his family had maintained for generations. A safe house for when the transformations became too dangerous. "We'll stay here until the blood moon," he said, securing the cabin's reinforced doors. The windows were barred with silver, and chains hung from the walls, grim reminders of what this place was truly for. "It's remote enough that when the ritual begins, we won't endanger anyone else." Sera explored the small space while Dominic unpacked supplies. The cabin was Spartan but functional. One room with a bed, a fireplace, a small kitchen. Books lined makeshift shelves, journals, grimoires, texts in languages she didn't recognize. "Your family really was obsessed with breaking the curse," she said, pulling down a leather-bound journal dated 1847. Obsessed implies a choice. This was survival. Dominic came to stand beside her, and she felt the now familiar pull between them. Magnetic, undeniable. Every generation lost someone to either your family's curse or our own corrupted bloodline. My great-great-grandmother went mad from the pain. My grandfather died when a transformation went wrong. This curse has been eating both our families alive for 2 centuries. Then let's end it. Over the next week, they prepared. Dominic taught Sera everything he knew about werewolf magic, about the blood moon's power, about the ritual Nathaniel had half completed. They studied the silver box obsessively, examining every rune engraved on its surface. The key and the collar are 2 halves of a whole, Dominic explained one night, the fire casting shadows across his scarred face. During the blood moon, you'll wear the collar, and I'll use the key. If Nathaniel's ritual works the way I think it does, the curse will flow out of you and into me, completing my transformation, and then back to you, stabilized by my alpha bloodline. We'll both become full werewolves, bonded as mates. And if it doesn't work, then the curse consumes us both. Quick deaths, at least. Sera traced the scars on his forearm. Have you thought about what comes after, if we survive? I try not to hope that far ahead. Hope with me, she urged. Please, we could have a life, Dominic, a real one. We could be free. He caught her hand and brought it to his lips. I've never wanted anything more. With 10 days left, Sera's control began to slip. She woke one morning to find she'd shredded the bed sheets with claws she didn't remember growing. Another day, she caught herself stalking a deer through the forest with hunting instincts that felt more natural than walking upright. Her human thoughts were becoming harder to hold on to, sliding away like water through her fingers. Talk to me, Dominic said, finding her standing at the forest's edge, her eyes fixed on the distant mountains. Keep your humanity close. Tell me about your life before all this. I had a shop, she said, the words feeling strange in her mouth. Antiques, beautiful things. I was happy, I think, but it feels like someone else's life now. It was your life. It can be again. Can it? She turned to him, and she knew her eyes were glowing. Even if we survive, I'll never be fully human again. I'll always be this creature. How do I go back to selling vintage furniture when I know what it's like to hunt, to taste blood, to feel this powerful? You find a new normal. We both do, together. But that night, the wolf almost won completely. Sera dreamed she was running through the forest, and when she woke, she was actually outside, naked and covered in mud, standing over the carcass of a rabbit she'd killed with her bare hands. The taste of blood was in her mouth, and the worst part was how good it felt. Dominic found her there, shaking and crying. He wrapped her in his coat and carried her back to the cabin without a word. I'm losing myself, she sobbed against his chest. Every day I feel more wolf and less Sera. What if there's nothing left by the time the blood moon comes? What if the ritual saves a monster instead of a woman? Then I'll love the monster too, he said fiercely. Sera, you're not disappearing. You're changing, yes, but the core of who you are, your courage, your kindness, your strength, that's still there. I see it every time you fight the wolf back, every time you choose to hold on. I'm so tired of fighting. I know, but just a little longer. 7 more days, and this ends one way or another. He held her through the night, and Sera clung to his warmth, his solidity, his unwavering belief that she was worth saving. She didn't know if she believed it herself anymore, but his faith was enough for both of them. 5 days before the blood moon, Sera asked Dominic to take her into the nearest village. She needed to call Maya, needed to say goodbye to the life she was leaving behind. The village had a single payphone. Service was spotty this deep in the mountains, and Sera stood there with the receiver in her hand, trying to figure out what to say. Maya answered on the second ring. Sera, oh my God, where have you been? I've been losing my mind. The shop is fine. I'm handling everything, but you disappeared and... Maya. Sera cut through the panic gently. I need you to listen. I can't explain everything, but I'm safe. I'm with Dominic, and I need you to know that whatever happens in the next week, you've been the best friend I could have asked for. Silence. Then, Sera, you're scaring me. What's going on? I'm sick. It's complicated, but there's a treatment, a possible cure. We're trying it soon. What kind of sickness? What kind of treatment? Sera, talk to me. I can't. Tears slid down Sera's face. I wish I could, but I can't. Just know that I'm doing everything I can to come back to you. And if I don't... She took a shaky breath. If I don't, the shop is yours. Everything's in a safety deposit box at the bank, the deed, the accounts, all of it. Build something beautiful with it, okay? Help people find treasures the way you helped me. Sera, no, don't talk like that. Whatever this is, we'll fight it together. Just come home. I can't. But Maya, thank you for everything. She hung up before Maya could respond, before her friend's tears could break her resolve completely. Dominic was waiting outside the phone booth. He didn't ask what she'd said, just pulled her into his arms and let her cry. That night, back at the cabin, Sera wrote letters. To Maya, explaining everything in case the ritual failed. To the customers who'd trusted her with their family heirlooms. To the neighbors who'd waved and smiled. To the life she was leaving behind, whether in death or transformation. Dominic wrote his own letters, fewer because he had fewer people left who cared. But he wrote to distant cousins, to the Werewolf Council, to anyone who might care about the ending of the Ashford curse. If this works, he said, sealing his final envelope, we'll need to disappear for a while. Let both our families think we died. Start fresh somewhere new. And if it doesn't work, then these letters will be our last testament, proof that we tried to break the cycle instead of perpetuating it. They made love that night with desperate intensity, memorizing each other's bodies like they were trying to imprint themselves on each other's souls. When it was over, they lay tangled together, skin to skin, heartbeat to heartbeat. I love you, Sera whispered into the darkness. I don't care if it's the curse, or fate, or just two broken people finding each other. I love you, and I want you to know that before everything changes. Dominic's arms tightened around her. I love you too. Whatever we become tomorrow, human, wolf, or something in between, that doesn't change. It's the one thing I'm certain of. They fell asleep holding each other, knowing it might be the last peaceful night they ever had. The day of the blood moon dawned clear and cold. Sera woke feeling strange, not worse, but different. The wolf inside her had gone quiet, as if gathering itself for what was coming. They spent the day in preparation. Dominic drew ritual circles in the clearing behind the cabin, copying symbols from Nathaniel's journals with meticulous care. Sera fasted and meditated, trying to center herself for the transformation to come. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of crimson, they stood together at the circle's edge. Last chance to back out, Dominic said, holding the silver collar. We could run, hide, hope the council never finds us. No, we end this tonight, one way or another. Sera knelt in the center of the circle, and Dominic placed the collar around her neck. The moment the silver touched her skin, she felt the curse wake. A living thing inside her, hungry and ancient. The collar's lock clicked shut with a sound like destiny. Dominic took his place opposite her, the small silver key in his hand. Between them, they'd placed the box with Iris's hair, the original anchor of the curse. When the moon reaches its zenith, Dominic said, his voice formal with ritual weight, I'll turn the key. The curse will flow from you to me and back again. We have to hold on through the pain, through the transformation. If either of us breaks the circle or lets go, the curse will consume us both. I won't let go, Sera promised. Neither will I. The moon rose, huge and red as blood, bathing the clearing in crimson light. Sera felt the transformation begin. Not the chaotic, violent changes of before, but something more profound. Her bones began to shift, her muscles to reshape, but slowly, almost gently. Dominic turned the key. Pain exploded through Sera's body, not physical pain, but something deeper. It felt like her soul was being torn apart and rewoven, like every cell in her body was being rewritten. She screamed, and the sound came out as a howl that echoed through the mountains. Across from her, Dominic convulsed as his own transformation finally completed. His body shifted fully into wolf form for the first time in his life, a massive silver-gray wolf with eyes that still held his human intelligence. The curse flowed between them like lightning, visible as red light that pulsed in time with their racing hearts. Sera felt it pulling memories from her mind. Charlotte's betrayal, Nathaniel's grief, 2 centuries of pain and vengeance and loss. But beneath that, she felt something else. Nathaniel's love for Iris, pure and desperate. The moment of clarity he'd had before he died, when he'd written the escape clause into the curse. He hadn't wanted endless revenge, he'd wanted release. For himself, for his bloodline, for Charlotte's descendants. He'd wanted someone to prove that love could overcome hate. Hold on! Dominic's voice came through their mental bond, newly forged by the ritual. Just a little longer. Sera's transformation was completing now. She felt her human form falling away like a shed skin, felt herself becoming wolf, but not mindless, not lost. She held on to herself, onto Dominic, onto the love between them that burned brighter than any curse. The red light between them intensified until it was blinding, until Sera couldn't tell where she ended and Dominic began. They were separate and together, individual and bonded, human and wolf, and something entirely new. And then, with a sound like the world breaking, the curse shattered. Sera opened her eyes to find herself lying in the grass, naked and shivering. The collar around her neck had crumbled to silver dust. Beside her, Dominic was also human again, breathing hard. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Sera touched her face, her arms, checking that she was still herself. She was but changed. She could feel the wolf inside her, calm and content now, a part of her instead of a foreign invader. "Did it work?" she whispered. Dominic sat up slowly, his eyes wide with wonder. I think it did. I can feel my wolf, fully, completely. No pain, no corruption, just..." He started to laugh, the sound edged with hysteria and relief. "Just a normal werewolf. God, I never thought I'd be so happy to say that." Sera pushed herself up, and suddenly she was laughing too, tears streaming down her face. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. They'd broken the curse. Dominic pulled her into his arms, and they clung to each other in the moonlight. 2 people who'd been born to destroy each other and chose to save each other instead. "What happens now?" Sera asked. "Now we learn what we've become, together." Dominic stood and helped her to her feet. "The ritual bonded us, mate bonds, the strongest connection werewolves can have. I can feel your emotions, hear your thoughts if you let me, and you can do the same with me." Sera tested it, reaching out with senses she didn't know she had, and felt Dominic's presence in her mind, steady, strong, overflowing with love and relief. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "You're beautiful. Sera, we need to test the transformation, make sure we have full control. Are you ready?" She nodded, and together they let the change take them. This time, there was no pain. Sera's body shifted smoothly from human to wolf. A pure transformation, complete and controlled. She looked down at her paws, silver-white fur, elegant and deadly, and then at Dominic, massive and silver-gray, powerful beyond measure. They were magnificent. They ran through the forest together under the blood moon, two wolves who'd once been enemies, now bound as mates for life. Sera felt free for the first time since the curse began, free of fear, free of the countdown, free to simply exist in this new form. When they finally shifted back to human as the moon began to set, they collapsed in the clearing, exhausted but whole. "So this is it," Sera said. "We're werewolves now. No going back." "No going back," Dominic agreed. "Are you okay with that?" Sera thought about her old life, the shop, the routine, the careful normality she'd built. It was gone now, irretrievable. But in its place, she had this: the forest, the moon, the man beside her who loved her enough to risk everything. "I'm more than okay with it," she said. "I'm alive. We're both alive. That's more than I ever hoped for." Dominic kissed her, soft and sweet. "What do you want to do first, in this new life of ours?" Sera smiled. "Sleep, then breakfast, then figure out how to exist in a world that doesn't know werewolves are real." "Sounds perfect." They made their way back to the cabin as the sun rose, casting everything in shades of gold. The blood moon had passed, the curse was broken, and against all odds they'd survived. But as Sera glanced back at the forest, she caught a glimpse of movement in the shadows, golden eyes watching them with interest that wasn't entirely friendly. The Werewolf Council hadn't forgotten about them, and now that she and Dominic had survived, had broken the curse and bonded as mates, they'd created something the Council had never seen before. A mated pair born from cursed bloodlines, stronger together than any traditional werewolf. They weren't out of danger yet, but at least now they faced it together. 3 months later, Maya stood in Whitmore Antiquities, staring at the letter Sera had left in the safety deposit box. She'd read it a dozen times now, and it still didn't make sense. Curses, werewolves, a desperate race to break a 200-year-old spell. It read like fiction, like the plot of a movie, not the reality of her missing friend. But Sera was gone. Had been gone for 3 months, with no contact, no sightings, nothing. The police had investigated and found no evidence of foul play, just a woman who disappeared with a man, possibly running away to start a new life. Maya wanted to believe that. Wanted to think Sera was happy somewhere, building a new life with Dominic. But the letter's final lines haunted her. "If you're reading this, either I didn't survive the ritual, or I survived but can never come back. Either way, I want you to know. I chose this. I chose to fight. And if I won, if Dominic and I broke the curse, then somewhere out there, we're living the life we were denied for 200 years. Be happy for us, even if you can't understand. Love you, always." "You okay?" a customer asked, noticing her tears. Maya wiped her eyes and forced a smile. "Fine, just sorting through some old papers. Can I help you find something?" Life went on, even when the people you loved disappeared into mystery. The shop thrived under Maya's management, and sometimes, late at night, she swore she heard howling in the distant hills. But Boston didn't have wolves. Everyone knew that. Still, she liked to imagine Sera was out there somewhere, running wild and free. Sera and Dominic had indeed started over, building a life in a small town in Montana where questions were rare and privacy was respected. They lived on the edge of civilization, in a cabin surrounded by forest where they could transform freely. Dominic worked as a carpenter, using his supernatural strength to do in hours what would take normal humans days. Sera restored furniture from home, selling pieces online under a pseudonym. It wasn't the life she'd imagined back in Boston, but it was richer, fuller, more alive than anything she'd known before. They learned to navigate their new reality together. The mate bond meant they were never truly alone. Sera could feel Dominic's emotions like her own, could find him unerringly no matter how far apart they were. Some days it was overwhelming, but most days it was a comfort. They transformed regularly, running through the forests, hunting, reveling in the freedom of their wolf forms. Sera had worried she'd lose herself to the beast, but the curse breaking had stabilized her. She was always herself, human or wolf, just different facets of the same soul. But the werewolf world hadn't forgotten them. 6 months after the blood moon, a delegation arrived from the council. They came in human form, 3 severe-looking individuals who introduced themselves as elders. "We've been watching you," the lead elder said, her voice cool and assessing. "A cursed bloodline, purified, an incomplete transformation made whole, a mate bond that should be impossible. You've created something unprecedented." Sera and Dominic stood together on their porch, united and ready for whatever came next. "We broke a curse," Dominic said flatly. "That's all. We're no threat to the packs." "Aren't you?" The elder tilted her head, studying them with predatory interest. "You're stronger than you should be. Your bond amplifies your power in ways we've never documented. And you did it all outside pack law, outside council authority." "Because the council wanted me dead," Sera said, unable to keep the edge from her voice. "You sent hunters to kill me before I had a chance to break the curse. Forgive me for not trusting your authority." The elder's expression didn't change. Katya and her team acted without full authorization. Their orders were to observe and report, not to execute. Their overzealousness has been addressed. Addressed how? That's not your concern. The elder stepped closer, and Sera felt Dominic tense beside her. "We're here to offer you a choice. Join a pack, submit to proper alpha authority, learn our ways, become part of our world, or remain rogue and accept that you'll be watched, tested, and potentially eliminated if you prove dangerous." "That's not a choice," Dominic growled. "That's a threat dressed up in diplomatic language." "It's reality. You've entered our world uninvited, carrying power you don't understand. We've existed in secret for millennia by maintaining control, by ensuring no werewolf becomes a liability. You're asking us to trust 2 unknowns." Sera felt her wolf rise, felt the protective fury that came from someone threatening her mate, her life, her hard-won freedom. But beneath that fury, she also felt Dominic's calming presence through the bond, reminding her that violence wouldn't solve this. "What if we proved ourselves?" she asked. "Not by submitting, but by helping. You said we're unprecedented. Maybe that's valuable instead of dangerous. Maybe we could help others who are cursed, who are trapped between forms, who don't fit into your neat categories." The elder raised an eyebrow. "You want to be werewolf social workers?" "I want to be free," Sera said firmly. "But if proving our value to the council buys us that freedom, then yes, we'll help. On our terms, at our pace, but we'll help." The elders conferred in a language Sera didn't recognize, something ancient and guttural. Finally, the lead elder nodded. "Very well. We'll grant you provisional autonomy. You remain unbonded to any pack, but you answer to the council for any irregularities. And if we call on you for assistance with unusual cases, you respond. Do this for 5 years without incident, and we'll grant you full independence." 5 years? Dominic protested. "Consider it probation. You broke one of the oldest curses in werewolf history. You've earned a chance. Don't waste it." The elders left as silently as they'd arrived, and Sera collapsed against Dominic, adrenaline draining away. "Well," she said shakily, "that could have gone worse. 5 years of being the council's errand runners. That's going to be complicated." "Everything about our lives is complicated." Sera turned in his arms, meeting his eyes. "But we're alive. We're together, and we're free to live on our terms. That's more than we dared hope for 6 months ago. Dominic kissed her forehead. You're right, and who knows? Maybe helping others break their curses won't be so bad. We're living proof it's possible. Exactly. We could give people hope. Hope, Dominic repeated, the words soft and wondering. A year ago, I didn't believe in hope. Now look at us. They stood on their porch, wrapped in each other, watching the sun set over the Montana wilderness. Their new life was uncertain, filled with challenges they couldn't predict, but it was theirs, built not from destiny or duty, but from choice. The council's first request came 2 months later. A teenager in Oregon, bitten by a rogue werewolf, whose transformation was going wrong. The local pack couldn't stabilize her, and she was becoming feral. Sera and Dominic drove through the night to reach her. They found Lily, 16 years old, terrified, and locked in a reinforced basement by her frantic parents, in the throes of an agonizing partial transformation. Her body couldn't decide what it wanted to be, shifting chaotically between human and wolf. It's like watching Sera's curse, Dominic murmured, horrified, but this girl didn't do anything to deserve it. Then we save her, Sera said simply. She approached Lily carefully, letting the girls see her, smell her, recognize her as pack, even if they weren't formally bonded. Through the mate bond, she felt Dominic backing her up, ready to intervene if Lily attacked. Lily, Sera said softly, kneeling outside the cage. I know you're scared. I know it hurts. I've been where you are, trapped between human and wolf, unable to control it. But you can learn. Let me help you. The girl's eyes, half human, half wolf, fixed on her with desperate hope. Over 3 days, Sera and Dominic worked with Lily, teaching her what they'd learned through trial and error, how to feel the transformation coming, how to embrace it instead of fighting it, how to find the stillness at the center where human will and wolf instinct could coexist. It wasn't easy. Lily fought them, attacked Dominic twice, and nearly escaped to rampage through the neighborhood. But slowly, painfully, she learned control. When Lily finally transformed fully for the first time, a smooth shift from human to wolf and back again, her parents wept with relief. The local pack alpha, who'd been watching skeptically from a distance, approached Sera and Dominic with new respect. You did in 3 days what we couldn't do in 3 weeks, she said. The council was right to send you. As they drove away from Oregon, Sera felt something she hadn't expected. Purpose. For years, her life had been about surviving, about building something safe and stable. But this, helping someone who was lost and frightened, using her own trauma to ease someone else's pain, this felt meaningful in a way antique restoration never had. We could be good at this, she said to Dominic. We already are good at this. He reached over and took her hand. You were born to save people, Sera. The curse just gave you the tools to do it on a different level. Over the next year, they took on 5 more cases. A young man whose pack had rejected him, an older woman bitten late in life, a pair of twins whose transformations were dangerously synchronized, a rogue wolf who'd forgotten his human form entirely, and a child, barely 12, whose parents had been killed by hunters and who had no pack to teach him. Each case broke Sera's heart and then rebuilt it stronger. Each person they saved was proof that the curse hadn't won, that the darkness Nathaniel had unleashed 200 years ago could be transformed into something healing. Word spread through the werewolf community. Sera and Dominic became known as the curse breakers, wolves who could help the hopeless cases, who understood transformation in ways even the oldest alphas didn't. The council grudgingly acknowledged their value. But not everyone was happy about their rising reputation. Katya reappeared in their lives on a cold November night, materializing from the shadows as they returned from helping a newly turned wolf in California. "Well, well," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "The council's pet projects. How does it feel being leashed and collared like the dogs you are?" Dominic moved in front of Sera instantly, but Sera stepped around him. She wasn't the frightened woman Katya had tried to kill 2 years ago. She was stronger now, more confident, and she wouldn't hide. "What do you want, Katya?" "I want you to know that some of us see through this charade. You're abominations, dressed up in pretty purpose by a council too weak to do what's necessary. But I'm not weak, and I'm not alone." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise. The old ways are dying. Packs fragmenting, humans encroaching on our territories, wolves like you breaking every rule that kept us safe. Someone needs to preserve what we are, even if the council won't. By killing people who don't fit your definition of acceptable?" Katya smiled, cold and cruel. "By eliminating threats before they become problems. You should have died in those mountains, Sera, and one day I'll finish what I started." She vanished into the night before they could respond, leaving only the scent of threat and promised violence. "She's gathering support," Dominic said grimly. "There's always been a traditionalist faction in the werewolf world, wolves who think any change is corruption. With us challenging the old ways, proving that cursed bloodlines can be purified and rogues can be rehabilitated. We're making ourselves targets." "Yes." Sera took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Then we need to be smarter, stronger. We build alliances with the packs we've helped, make ourselves too valuable for even traditionalists to eliminate easily. And if that's not enough, then we fight, together, like always." Dominic pulled her close, and through the mate bond, Sera felt his fear, not for himself, but for her. She sent back her own emotions, determination, love, and an unshakable certainty that they would survive whatever came next. They'd beaten a 200-year-old curse. They could handle one vengeful werewolf. On the second anniversary of breaking the curse, Sera woke before dawn and slipped out of bed, drawn by an instinct she couldn't name. She transformed and ran through the Montana forest, letting her wolf lead her to a clearing she'd never found before. And there, in the center of the clearing, stood a woman. Not a real woman, a ghost, translucent in the pre-dawn light, with dark hair and sad eyes. Sera shifted back to human, suddenly certain of who this was. "Iris," she breathed. The ghost smiled. "Hello, daughter of Charlotte's line. I've waited a long time to meet you." "You're... how?" "I'm an echo, nothing more. A piece of myself that Nathaniel bound into his curse, preserved by his grief and magic. I've watched every generation, witnessed every tragedy. But now, finally, the curse is broken and I can rest." "Why show yourself to me?" Iris drifted closer, her form barely substantial. "To say thank you. Nathaniel loved me so much it destroyed him when I died. He became a monster in his grief, yes, but at his core, he just wanted someone to prove that love could be stronger than hate. You and Dominic did that. You proved him right." Tears streamed down Sera's face. "I'm so sorry for what my ancestor did to you. And I'm sorry for what Nathaniel's curse did to your family. We all suffered from Charlotte's choice. Her, Nathaniel, your bloodline, his bloodline. But you broke the cycle. You chose love over vengeance, hope over despair. That's all I ever wanted." Iris began to fade, her form dissolving like mist in the morning sun. "Live well, Sera Whitmore. Live the life Nathaniel and I never got to have, and know that wherever we are, we're finally at peace." She vanished completely, and in her place, a single white flower grew, night blooming serious, impossible in Montana's climate, blooming even in the cold November air. Sera knelt and touched it gently, feeling the last traces of ancient magic dissipate like a sigh. The curse wasn't just broken, it was healed. The wound between their families, open for 2 centuries, had finally closed. She returned to the cabin to find Dominic awake and waiting. "I felt something through the bond," he said. "What happened?" Sera told him everything. About Iris, about her final message, about the flower that represented closure and peace. "It's really over," Dominic said, wonder in his voice. "Not just the curse, but all of it. The guilt, the duty, the burden our families carried, it's done." "So what now?" Sera asked. "We've spent 2 years proving ourselves to the council, helping others, running from our past. What do we do when we're finally free to just live?" Dominic pulled her into his arms. "We do exactly that. We live. We help people because we want to, not because we have to. We build a life that's ours, messy and complicated and beautiful. We prove that breaking a curse was just the beginning, not the ending." I like the sound of that. As the sun rose over the mountains, Sera and Dominic stood together at the window of their cabin, watching light transform the landscape from shadow to gold. Behind them, scattered across the table, were requests for help from wolves across the country. In front of them, a future that was uncertain but theirs to shape. They'd been born to destroy each other. They'd chosen to save each other instead. And now they'd spend the rest of their lives proving that love, messy, complicated, transformative love, was the most powerful magic of all. 1 year later, Maya was closing the shop when she saw them. A couple standing across the street watching Whitmore antiquities with expressions she couldn't quite read. The woman had silver-streaked hair now and moved with a predator's grace. The man beside her was tall and protective, keeping himself between her and the street traffic. But Maya would know that profile anywhere. "Sera?" she called, her heart hammering. The woman turned and Maya saw the truth. It was Sera, but changed, stronger, wilder, more alive than she'd ever been in the careful, ordered life she'd lived before. Sera crossed the street slowly, and when she reached Maya, tears were streaming down both their faces. "You're alive!" Maya sobbed, pulling her into a fierce hug. "You're actually alive. I thought I was so scared." "I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't contact you, couldn't explain, but I'm okay. Better than okay." Sera pulled back, gesturing to the man beside her. "Maya, this is Dominic. My husband." "The werewolf," Maya said, and watched both of them freeze. "Oh, please. I read your letter 100 times. I know what you are. I just didn't know if I believed it until right now." Sera laughed, a sound of pure relief. "You're taking this remarkably well. I've had 3 years to process, also therapy, lots of therapy." Maya studied them both, seeing the way they stood together, the invisible connection between them. "So the ritual worked. You broke the curse." "We broke it," Sera confirmed. "And now we're living the life we fought for. Can you stay? Come inside, let me close up, and we'll talk properly. I want to hear everything." Sera glanced at Dominic, who nodded. "We have a few hours before we need to head back. There's someone in Wyoming who needs our help." As Maya locked the door and flipped the sign to closed, as she led them up to the apartment above the shop where they'd shared so many late-night conversations, she felt something settle in her chest. Sera wasn't the friend she'd lost. She was someone new, someone transformed by trials Maya could barely imagine. But she was still Sera. Still the woman who'd built something beautiful from nothing, who'd chosen to fight instead of surrender, who'd proven that even the darkest curses could be broken. They talked until midnight, sharing stories and laughter and tears. And when Sera and Dominic finally left, slipping away into the night like the wolves they were, Maya stood at the window and watched them go. She didn't know all their secrets, didn't understand everything they'd become, but she knew this. Sera Whitmore had found what everyone searched for, a love worth transforming for, a purpose worth fighting for, and a life worth living no matter how impossible it seemed. And in a world of ordinary miracles, that was extraordinary enough.